It's that time again, performance review season, and if you're a manager and you are looking for tips on how to give a good performance review to your team members, this is the video for you. In today's video, I have 5 tips to help you do a meaningful and flawless performance review with your team. Stay tuned. Welcome back. My name is Preston, author of Harness Your Butterflies and business consultant. I help leaders just like you build awesome teams and create exciting careers. So if this is the type of stuff that you're into, hit the subscribe button below. I have new videos every Tuesday. So let's get into the content. For performance reviews, these are really important, and obviously if you're watching this video, you probably agree. Performance reviews are your time to sit down with your team and set expectations for the following year from June to June or from May to May. And this is your time to inspire your team to think bigger and follow with the company vision and the plan that you're setting out for them. So don't underestimate the performance reviews. Let's get into the tips. Okay, so tip number 1 is collect your thoughts. Ideally, in a performance review situation, you would have your team member filling out their individual performance review self-evaluations, which I'll get to in a second. But before you review those, it's important that you look at your own perspective of how your team is doing. And a lot of this is you looking at your individual employees as well as collectively how they're working together. And you as a manager, how have you done in leading your team? So some questions that are really important to ask would be things like, when I'm evaluating this person, let's call them Joan, if I'm evaluating Joan's performance, have I given Joan ongoing feedback throughout the year? Followed up by, has this person been responsive to that feedback and self-adjusted? Are they using their strengths every single day? And if not, why? And when you're evaluating your team, you want to look at what are their career goals and aspirations, and do they align with where you would like them to go in the next year? And make sure you take a minute and just think about, how have you as a manager done when leading this individual? Has it been kind of a rough patch? Has it been really smooth? Has it been an expansive amount of growth for both of you? How has that interaction gone, and how would you like that to look in the future? And if you're looking for more information on being a manager or being a leader of a team and you haven't had a ton of experience doing that, go back and check out this video. It's a good watch, but make sure to watch the end of this video first. And now it's time to review their self-evaluation. Most organizations have this as a formal setup in some sort of HR system. If your HR program does not require employees to do a self-evaluation, I would ask your team to do a self-eval just in case, to make sure that they are capturing what they believe to be their high points and their low points of the past year. And in this type of eval, you really want to make sure that you're capturing what your team member, your individual team member, believes has been their top strengths for the year and has been their top weaknesses. What projects have really sparked and excited them, and which ones have really drained them. And this is really important because when you start looking at the next year, you want to make sure that you can point and say, these are the types of projects I'm going to give you moving forward, and make sure that they're on board with using their strengths more intentionally. And when they're doing their self-evals, you want to make sure that you can see a clear pattern of them expressing and understanding the business goals and the business vision, and making sure that they understand how their role is laddering up. So for example, if your company, if their role is sales, and they are trying to bring in new leads, but their highlight from the year was a wellness program that they worked on, that's not necessarily, it's not a bad thing, but it's not necessarily something that would show up well in a performance review, because you want to make sure whatever they're viewing as their high points are parts of the things that are moving the organization forward in a way that their role is supposed to. So let me know in the comments below, what sort of questions would you want to know in your employee self-evaluations? Let me know in the comments below. Tip number 3, now that you've had your chance to look at your own thoughts about your employee and they've been able to give their input on how they've done for the year, it's time to sit down and have the face-to-face conversation. So when you're having your conversations with your employees, it's important to try to obviously talk about their performance and how they've done for the year. If it's tough to talk about, it's tough to talk about, but you need to get it out in the open. But really what you want to do during your performance review is lay out, this is what happened in the past, and set a very clear intention of what's going to happen in the next year. Performance reviews, while they focus a lot on the past, are really a good time for you to set a course and set a vision for your individual employee to keep them for another year, and to allow them to see and get inspired by what's available for them in the future. What are their career aspirations at the company? What are the things that they look forward to? What are the things that they want to work on? And what does growth look like in their current role from this year to next year? Where do you want them to be? And this is a really good time to get all barriers to performance on the table. If you've noticed that they have consistently not gotten projects delivered on time or had excuses for why things weren't getting done, it's a really good time to look at the barriers that might exist, because you might not have a project management system, or you might not be having enough meetings with that person to check up and make sure that they have all the resources that they need to complete the projects that they've been struggling with. So you're setting a vision for the future, and you're also looking at, in this next year, in this upcoming year, what are some barriers that your employees might encounter that you can remove now that will make that transition from where they are now to where they want to be in the future, to make that transition as effortless and as resistant-free as you can make it. If you're looking for more information or more resources on setting that team vision or setting your long-term vision with your team, go back and watch this video about the psychology of successful leaders. That will be really, really helpful for you. So tip number 4 is to clarify expectations. So when you're having your performance review with your team member, you really want to make sure that you are clear on what your expectations of them are in general, but also more specifically per employee. So generally speaking, you would like all projects to be in on time, you would like them to show up on time for work, but if there's something where a specific employee has a need or a goal that you need to help them through, and setting expectations for your team might be also a good time for you to address any changes that have happened in the past year and find a way to bring those up so that all of your team members are on the same page with what's going to be the expectations moving forward. So for example, in the beginning of 2020, there was a lot of COVID. I'm sure that you've probably still experiencing this, but at the beginning of 2020, there was a pandemic that hit, and a lot of managers and a lot of leaders were kind of taken aback and trying to figure out, what does the future look like for us? And so performance reviews are a really, really good time to set expectations and say, this is what I'm expecting of you. Even though we're working remotely, even though we're having a lot of these other struggles, I still expect this, this, and this. So lay out sort of what your guidelines or your rules are for the following year, or the following 3 months or 6 months or whatever, but making sure that you're laying out your expectations with your team in sort of this heart-to-heart conversation. And on that note, if you are looking for more resources on managing remote teams, check out this video. It's really, really helpful, and I think especially right now, it's going to be a good resource for you. And tip number 5 is make a hard plan moving forward. So it's one thing to create a vision and to inspire your team to move to the next level, but it's your job to make sure that the plan that they have moving forward is actionable. So some of the things before you end your meeting with your employee, you want to make sure that you're setting up clear goals, measurable objectives, setting up hard dates for any cross-training that needs to happen, being clear about any changes in roles or responsibilities that's going to affect your team, and developing action plans for any projects or initiatives that you have laid out in your performance review conversation. Really, at the end of the day, your performance reviews are meant to be a good time for you and your employee to touch base on their performance, on how they did the past year, but also laying out this plan for the future and saying, I'm excited for the future, you're excited for the future, let's figure out and create what we want this to be together. And so don't lose sight of that when you're doing your performance reviews. And one other resource that might be helpful is this video about being a leader without being bossy. I hope your performance reviews go well. Let me know, come back to the video, leave me a comment or email me. Let me know how those videos went. I'm really anxious to see. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to order a copy of my book, Harness Your Butterflies, available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere that you get your books. And it's a great professional development tool for you and your team. That's all that I have. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to subscribe, give me a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you next week. I have new videos every Tuesday, so I will see you there.